accountability in the system that is driving down illegal behavior. We know that we have had fewer gun crimes, fewer homicides, and we have experienced an extreme reduction in carjackings.
Look at the 20 days since the federal surge compared to the 20 days prior. And the way to read those numbers is not based on last year, but recognizing we already had good momentum coming into the federal surge, and it made it better. And so on the far right, and I'll just sort of look at the violent crime, the very far right was sort of the year-to-date prior to the date of the surge. It was down about 26%. And as a result of the drops we've seen during the surge, you see it tick upwards. And the most significant manifestation of this we really see in carjackings, which, as the mayor said, is a crime that strikes fear in many people because you can be targeted quite randomly. And that's where we've seen the largest impact of nearly a 90% change when we look at what's happened during the past 20 days.
90% change in carjacking.
Month to date, so in 2024, there was 496 carjackings in the District of Columbia. In 2025, month to date, there was 188. In 2024, as far as robberies go, there were 2,113 robberies. So in 2025, month to date so far, there's been 848. What the hell are they talking about? Crime is down over the last 30 years. What the hell were they 30 years ago? You know, you're in law enforcement. I used to be in law enforcement. Presence equals prevention, and
exactly
that's just a basic tenet of policing. And one of the things that we've seen happen now is that they put a heavy presence on the street.
500 officers short.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And then the officers that they do have are sitting around at the donut shop. You almost never see officers actively, routinely patrolling outside of their car on foot. And that's one of the things that I saw in the federal surge that I have not seen is the presence of officers outside their vehicles in the nooks and crannies and places ready to meet whatever criminal element was going to be present face to face. Typically what has been happening is that law enforcement's presence has been in a car responding to, as opposed to proactively patrolling. And that makes a huge difference amongst the minds of criminals, because somebody, 2 or 3 guys on foot, you know, they can call in more people than what are there on foot. But you sit in your car patrolling around in air conditioning, which I understand it, because you want that air conditioning, you want to be able to be on the cell phone, you want to be able to. But we have had a situation in D.C. and other cities throughout the United States where criminals have just basically taken advantage of the one car patrol.
See, that's management.
That's management, absolutely.
And that's not community. See, you know what? A lot of these politicians talk community policing, but what they put out within their police departments, even in Black communities in New York, it's not community policing. You know, and as you said, when they sit in their car and they don't get out and engage and they don't get out and be seen.
Average citizen doesn't know the officer who patrols their beat at any time. There are 3 shifts in most police departments, and most citizens don't know the men and women who patrol their neighborhoods. They don't know the sergeants who supervise those individuals. And when they talk about community policing, they've just been using those as catchphrases and hashtags, because reality is that community policing is, hey, I want to knock on your door, introduce myself. My name is Officer Newton. I'm with, blah, 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 police department. If you see anything, give me a call. Here's a direct cell phone, and get you a secondary cell phone number so they can call you on it, man. You got all kinds of technology out here, because what happens is instead of being proactive like that, we're reactive. We're only responding to calls. And if you take a proactive approach and you do some of those things proactively, what you see is you will have more eyes and ears and people doing things to communicate with you the criminal element, and therefore you can be more responsive when you do, as opposed to running around from call to call to call to call, So I don't know. I just see so much, but like you said, it is definitely a management issue. It's a management issue, and it's a philosophy issue too, because
Mhm.
You had this over the last 5-6 years. You've had this mantra of defunding the police, and we don't want any police presence. And the trust has been broken so much that most people don't even want to interact with police in any kind of way, and that's why they have the recruitment number problems that they have, because and that again goes back to management. It goes back to the philosophy of police. What has never taken place is an outright, full frontal apology to the Black community from police as to how they have been conducting themselves in these communities, uh, pretty much historically. And let's hit the reset button and let's try to build the relationship. Instead, what you have is during on National Night Out, you meet the kids and the little young ones who are just happy to see a man in a uniform down at the school, and you take a bunch of pictures, but you never really have. There's not really an effort to really build a relationship with the community, and
No, absolutely.
and that's city to city.
And then what they see, and that defund the police. We had one of the legendary radio hosts in New York, Dr. Bob Law, on a few years back, and he was the first one that said, "Do not trust defunded police because Black communities do not need a defunded police department."
Yeah.
And when we got to this liberalism, this democratic liberalism with defunded police, you have seen a lot of these cities are running police departments understaffed.
Yeah.
Understaffed. So you have officers working all this overtime, blowing up budgets, and then it's like common sense in law enforcement. Well, if you hire more, you won't have all this overtime.
But you can't hire more. People don't want to go to work for the police anymore.
Is that well that too?
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is the Negro mindset in the Black community, because you have some grown adults will tell their kids not to be a fireman, not to be a police officer, not to be a court officer, not to be this and that, not to be a correction officer when you only need a GED to be a correction officer to make almost $200,000 a year and walk away with a pension, get a check for the rest of your life. How many so when you have adults telling Black children not to do this, and then they don't give them no other options but hanging out on the street and ending up being arrested and being an inmate instead of a correction officer. Some of these problems we bring on ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on that, because so much of the messaging has been a defeatist mentality. Obviously, we're oppressed. That's easy to say that we're oppressed for the last 400 years. But the reality is we don't have a good presence out of the uniformed officers, police, firemen, and EMTs coming around to the schools and doing recruitment and really showing what that lifestyle is about. And you've got to start in middle school. You actually got to start in elementary school and follow them through middle school. And we don't really have people building relationships with kids. We have a lot of people using kids as photo ops to claim that we're for the kids and this and that and the other. We use them for photo ops, and we're not really investing in them as individuals to see them as the future of our community. What happens is we wait until something horrific happens, and then we talk about what he did as opposed to what we did. I constantly say this at a lot of my sentencings that I have with I said, when we're sentencing him, we're sentencing us, because whoever it is, the perpetrator, they are an absolute reflection of us as a community and as a culture. Those folks don't make those decisions inside bubbles. Now, I guess I do believe in personal responsibility, but what I'm saying is it takes a whole lot of lack of effort, of attention, of communication to create some of the things that we see happening with our young brothers in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are communicating to them in an overwhelming fashion are people who actually have nothing positive to say to them. people that are communicating messages through the music, communicating messages through the videos and the things that we see on television. I'm not an old man. I'm just saying is that we didn't have that kind of messaging in the 60s, 70s, and 80s at all. We had positive messaging. We had there was always a small element of the community that wanted to be pimps and thugs and drug dealers. Don't get me wrong, but that's just like any community. And now what we've seen is that subculture has become the most known and visible factor in our community. And so young people see that and they think about being a dope dealer, a music artist, and an athlete. And get this, even the music artists they can make money making music for the rest of their lives, and some of these dummies are wanting to be dope dealers themselves and making hundreds of thousands of dollars making music and have escaped, but just want to still be the damn dope dealer. So
well, I mean, even some black law enforcement look like dope dealers that look like law enforcement.
Yeah,
when I came up in the 90s, and it used to be a black law enforcement party, everybody used to have suits on.
Yeah.
Now we look like now we jeaned out and diamond out and we look no different. But Sister Organic Sunflower, thank you for your comment. She made the $100 post. All skin folk and kinfolk, and you're absolutely right. We have to start, as black people, start voting in people that have our interests. And one of the main things I tell everybody that's listening, the secret sauce is to go on your state's website and pull up and see who's donating to that black politician. Because when you see who's donating to him, you see who is actually they work for. See, a lot of times we think they're working for us. No, when you got these developers that give $50,000 checks, and they giving $100,000 and they raising all this money for them, that's who they work for. So our black politicians are not there to change the system. They're there to manage the system. And that's why you have Trump shaking them up, because he's calling them out, whether you like Trump or not. I really don't care.
Yeah, he's looking at the things
he's exposing them.
Yeah, he's looking at the things that they should have been doing and seeing the gaps in performance and filling the gaps with in the military and with the National Guard. You don't have a union that's pushing back on making people do things. See, there's no fear of getting fired if you're a police officer. Okay? Man, ain't nobody calling. Man, I'm on my shift. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and that's it. But it's what they're doing is it's just so far below the line. And I'm not trying to dog out police officers or anything like that. What I'm saying is that you have to inspect what you expect. And if you just you just allow law enforcement officers to do the standard status quo, you're going to get some poor performance. Okay, these organizations are too big. The sergeants don't care. The lieutenants don't care. The captains don't care. The majors are the ones who have to answer directly to the chief, and the chief, he knows that he's going to be there until the mayor gets changed out or the mayor gets frustrated. So nobody really cares. And so you have this huge bureaucracy inside these large, massive metropolitan police departments that everybody knows. Don't nobody really give a shit.
No. Yeah. And elected officials, see, and elected, when it comes to contract time. And I spoke to, I used to do seminars at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and talking about the failure of elected officials negotiating collective bargaining agreements when it comes to performance and accountability of law enforcement officers. I was in the union for 13 years. I was on two negotiating contracts. And the fact that a lot of times they just go and just give a raise, and they don't put accountability measures in the collective bargaining agreement, the whole office is accountable to
No matter.
professionals.
They're scared of them.
Exactly.
So in municipal politics, there's two large groups that they are afraid of. That is the teachers union and the police union. Actually, the fire union too. And so what happens is that's it. That's what I'm told. Enjoy. He said, man, all that stuff you talking, Jonathan, about issues, that shit don't matter. These people just want to see you come take a picture with them at the barbecue, kiss their baby, and show up at their church every now and then. And if you really want to get exquisite, when somebody passes away, send them a card or go to their funeral. And I'm like, that's the low bar that we have in our community for leaders.
Right.
That's the low bar that we have in our community for leaders. And
Absolutely.
don't get me wrong, that's stuff that should be done, but that's just the minimum that should be done. We don't really have leaders who sit around and talk about policy that's going to change the conditions and putting those policies in place with the things that you talked about, which are metrics, so that we can measure whether we're going in the right way or not going in the right way, and what's working, what's not working. I keep hearing with this crime surge, our numbers are down. They're the lowest they've been in 30 years. That ain't saying much. Shit, 30 years ago, we were in the midst of a damn crack epidemic. What the hell are you talking about? We don't have a crack epidemic now. All those people are locked up and dead. Let's talk about what they were last goddamn week. Okay?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's, and that's the whole thing, right? You talking about, crime is down. Yeah, but people just got shot. Look at Chicago over the weekend. Either 35 murders or 35 shootings, but 34 of them are too many. Whichever they are.
Yeah, and nobody really, when you constructively criticize, man, just the fact that you're critical of anything makes you, the enemy. They are more concerned about their image than they are about the issue. And,
exactly.
Because this issue has been pervasive for at least 25 of those last 30 years. Okay. So, we had, let me see. I had some numbers because I like facts. And I'm not trying to
listen. That crack era down there was rough.
So that was it. That's it. I mean, we don't have the crack era anymore, and so that's tell me what you and we are trending in the right direction. Make no mistake about it. But man, it's the 2023 info. I didn't even want to quote them. That's how bad it was. Still messed up it was. Okay, we are trending in the right direction, but suffice it to say that the 2023 numbers were higher than the 2024 numbers by a long shot. So they are moving in the right direction. Whatever is working is working. And so what I think that this that's the whole, that's really a management issue, just like you said. It's a management issue. It's metrics. We should be tracked. We should have those numbers posted every week in the District of Columbia and in your county. I don't want to see the annual numbers. I don't even want to see them on a monthly. I want to see them on a week to week, 52 weeks out the year. I want to see what's going on and what are you doing, because we need to be looking at those crime numbers, because that's what really sets the tenor and tone of Black communities is crime.
And we need to vote.
Yeah.
Like, if they're not going to change the police commissioner, and I said this in Mount Vernon. I said, look, if you are unsatisfied the way your community is policed, then you make a formal request, city council, to the mayor, as residents in the city, taxpayers in the city, to replace the police commissioner. And if the mayor, because usually in towns and in cities and towns in New York, the police commissioner works at the will of the mayor. And if that mayor refuses to change the police commissioner or change management structure, then the next election, you get a new mayor.
Well, let me talk about that.
Power is in your hands, people.
Let me talk about that too, because there are two positions in every community that I would never want to be. That would be the superintendent of schools and the police chiefs, because the reality is they are figureheads without much control over the front line of their operation. You can't. I've already said it. You can't fire the police officers that are fucking up on duty. Okay. Ditto for the same thing in the classroom. But I will say this: there are more frontline police officers who know what needs to be done, and frontline educators who know what needs to be done on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. My solution to the problem is we need to get rid of this police chief idea. Like there's one person who's got all the solutions, because all we're going to do is be rotating in new $300,000 police chiefs and superintendents. We need to empower the linemen.
Thanks for watching Black Westchester Magazine News, where the truth has no filter and the community comes first. We are the news with the Black point of view. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay informed, empowered, and engaged. Independent Black media matters. And we're just getting started. See you next time.